So, have you ever wondered why, if you've ever wondered why the way that you breathe could be the reason why you're not sleeping well, or why you sometimes feel stressed and foggy and just plain exhausted? Well, believe it or not, most of us are breathing wrong, and it's affecting more than what we realize. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how unlearning bad breathing habits can actually fight sleep apnea, reduce anxiety, and transform your overall health. Now, if we haven't met before, my name is Amy Miller. I'm a wellness advocate. I'm a Buteyko restorative breathing clinician and nervous system retraining clinician. And I help moms of children with special needs return to joy by simplifying their everyday lives so that they can spend time making memories with their family instead of just worrying over all the things. And we do this using our signature 3 Life Essentials method via our breathing and our nervous system retraining systems. And this is our 7-week sleep series on Mondays to experience life more fully, more abundantly, and bonus if we can just do this naturally, right? Now, I do have a gift for those of you who are joining me live. It's our control pause measurement tool. And the control pause is really just a simple breath holding test, which is a reliable measurement used in the Buteyko method to assess your breathing efficiency and your lung function. Today, I want to give you education plus solutions. If I spend time giving you a bunch of education without any solutions, you walk away with just a bunch of head knowledge about different issues, and then you have no ways to solve those. If I give you a bunch of solutions without any real education behind it, you walk away with, why would I even want to use this tool, this service, this exercise? And so I want to give you both today. So we're going to start with this. Are you breathing wrong? Now, it might sound strange, but improper breathing is incredibly common. And here's the kicker. This one mistake could be ruining your sleep and your health. Bad breathing habits can lead to chronic stress, can lead to poor sleep, reducing your mental performance, respiratory issues, even dental issues. But I don't want you to worry. Today, we're going to break it all down so that you can start breathing better and living better. Now, we're going to talk first about some key symptoms of incorrect breathing. Now, tell me if any of these sound familiar to you. Persistent stuffy nose or frequent colds, chest tightness, breathing through your mouth during exercise, anxiety or mental fog, dental challenges, snoring during sleep, sleep apnea episodes. So we're going to pause for just a moment. There's a nerd alert that we're about to talk through. Remember last week when we talked about sleep apnea, and we talked about how it intertwines with menopause and those hormonal changes and insomnia and how they kind of all snowball together. Well, today we're going to continue that conversation, and we're going to start with some science. We're going to have to nerd out for a minute, okay? But I think this will be valuable to you for 2 reasons. One, understanding the different traits of sleep apnea is going to help you better understand your particular situation or your family member's situation. And because the different traits will also impact how to address it. Only about 30% of those people with sleep apnea respond well to traditional medical treatments of sleep apnea. So that means that almost 80% do not respond well to those. So those of you who glaze over during science, bear with me. And those of you who are science nerds like me, let's dive in for just a few minutes, okay? So the first characteristic of sleep apnea is PCRIT. And we're going to go through these in the PALM. There's 4 characteristics that we're going to go through. And the first one in the stands for PCRIT. And PCRIT stands for, are you ready for this? Pharyngeal critical closing pressure. And all that means is it's the suction pressure at which airway collapses. So basically the question you want to ask is how much suction pressure is required to close that upper airway during sleep? the higher the PCRIT number, the airway is more collapsible. Now, there are some factors that influence this. For example, the tongue posture when it's in your mouth, and its placement, weight, that if you have a tendency to carry weight in the neck, so that neck circumference can affect that. Throat deposits of fat can also affect that, and even belly fat can also impinge on the diaphragm's ability to move, which reduces your lung volume. So this is the first characteristic, and this is the only one of the 4 characteristics that's an anatomical characteristic, meaning it's the structure. And it's mostly the main area that doctors look at when they're looking at diagnosing sleep apnea. And so we want to be aware of is there's other characteristics as well that that may not respond to those traditional treatments. Okay, sorry about my throat. So I talked about those areas of collapse. There are 4 different areas that the airway can collapse when you're sleeping. So this is a side view. You guys may have seen this screen when we talked about our snoring in the sleep series. And the first area of collapse is the tongue. So do you see that that kind of reddish ribbed area? The tongue, when you're laying, especially on your back, the tongue can fall to the back of the throat. So that's one area of collapse. And where your tongue rests is a factor in that. The soft palate falling into the back of the throat. So that's the area of the palate, the roof of the mouth. If you go all the way to the back where it begins to get soft, that's the soft palate muscle. And that also can fall into the throat. The epiglottis can also fall into the throat. So that's the white area on the screen there. That's the cartilage that is a flap that closes over the airway to protect the airway. And then, of course, the throat itself can collapse, which is the area that's highlighted in the black rectangle there. So there's 4 different areas where that can collapse. And so I want you to be aware of that. Now, this is a video of someone breathing during the day, but you can get the idea here for sleep, how these breathing patterns begin to snowball. Because you start with this mouth breathing, and then it leads to chest breathing, and also this kind of raising of the shoulders here that you see happening with her, which then results in a fast, shallow breathing, which then leads to increased turbulence during sleep, which basically means either that loud mouth breathing or snoring, which then leads to more sleep apnea episodes. So it's just this vicious cycle that snowballs there. And now I want you to see the picture on the right here. So in just a minute ago, we looked at the picture on the left. I want you to look at the picture on the right. And this shows airflow coming in and out through the nose, which is different from the picture on the left where we have the air flowing in and out through the mouth. When we have airflow, which is that blue line there coming in through the nose, then you see then that the tongue posture changes. It's not collapsing to the back of the throat. You also see that the throat is now no longer collapsed as well. You see that highlighted there with that black square as well. It stiffens the airway and it's less likely to collapse. Now, we're not just talking about airway. We also want to consider airway flow. That also needs to be reduced, but you can see there the change with the nasal breathing, the air coming through the nose. Okay, so the second characteristic of sleep apnea is the A. It stands for the low arousal threshold. So think about this as being low arousal meaning waking easy, high arousal threshold meaning difficult to wake during sleep. So are you a light sleeper or a deep sleeper? Now, 30 to 50% of those with sleep apnea episodes wake from sleep with just very small increases in breathing effort. And this low arousal threshold leads to this increased difficulty of getting to sleep, staying asleep, and contributes to sleep apnea severity, through increasing this fragmentation of sleep, right? Where you're not getting the sustained sleep and you're not getting into those deep REM cycles. And this then leads to insomnia. And we see with this characteristic that traditional treatment devices like mandibular advancement devices, they will not help this characteristic of sleep apnea. And what we need is helping to reduce that hyperarousal, keeping you awake, reducing that sympathetic drive in the nervous system, right? And increasing the parasympathetic drive and reducing that mind activity, right? That leads just feeding into that poor sleep and helping you get into a deeper sleep with light, slow, low breathing, which stimulates the vagus nerve. We talked about that a few sleep episodes back when we talked about anxiety and how that correlates with sleep. And so we want that nervous system, that vagus nerve, to be stimulated so that it tells our brain you're safe and you can sleep. So now if you've ever had a sleep study and you were told that you did not meet the criteria for sleep apnea, yet you know that your sleep is fragmented, you suspect that maybe you have a low arousal threshold or you have difficulty staying asleep, you're not crazy, friend. Most studies out there in medical journals about this only pertain to men. And so even if you don't meet the sleep apnea, quote, criteria, if you are a woman, if you have a smaller mouth and maybe you have a high palate, maybe the dentist has told you that you have a high palate, or if you have enlarged tonsils and you sometimes snore, or if you wake up only after 2 or 3 hours of sleep and you have some daytime sleepiness, you still may be dealing with an upper airway resistance, and you could still benefit from breathing re-education. Okay, the third characteristic, bear with me, we only have 2 more left to go. This one is about the L, high loop gain. Or we can also say it's a hypersensitive ventilatory control feedback loop, okay? All this means is it's an engineering term used to measure your body's sensitivity to carbon dioxide levels in the body. And I'll show you here this with a visual so you can see. So carbon dioxide is really the primary driver to breathe. And we're taught a lot in school that this is a waste byproduct or that it's a harmful substance. That's not true. It's actually created within our bodies, and it's a very valuable resource in our bodies. But I want you to see this visual here, this line showing, kind of defining what it looks like when you're breathing at night. And you see the nice flow of breathing happening, and then you see the straight line representing the apnea, where your body is not breathing. And then what happens during that time is carbon dioxide levels are building up within inside the body. And then when we begin resuming breathing, it will be this exaggerated ventilation, right, where we're trying to catch up breathing. And which then happens is it blows out too much carbon dioxide, which then feeds back into the next apnea episode. And so, so you see this ends up resulting in very unstable breathing patterns at night. And this characteristic of sleep apnea does not respond well to traditional treatments like CPAP machines or mandibular advancement devices either. Okay, so the last characteristic is poor pharyngeal muscle responsiveness. So think about this. That picture of the side where we were looking at the different areas of where that collapse can happen in your airway, we're asking ourselves, are the muscles in the throat doing their job to keep the airway open? And when we talk about that, we mean the tongue, which is a muscle, right? Your upper airway muscles around the throat. Also those pharyngeal fat pads. And what's happened is the muscles are becoming lazy over time. Now, this can happen because of multiple influences, but this has been, we can retrain those muscles to become more efficient and able to keep that airway open. Okay, enough of the science for a minute. I want you to try something with me. We're going to take a quick 40-second breathing test that could change everything. This is called the control pause test, and it's a simple way to measure how well your body is functioning. Now, here's what you're going to do. You're going to sit down in a comfortable position, breathing in and out through the nose normally, okay? So you're going to take a small, gentle breath in through the nose and then out through the nose. And then you're going to hold your nose, and after that exhale, and count the seconds until you feel the very first desire to breathe. The very first moment that your brain says, I need to take a breath. Now, you're not holding for as long as you can. You're just holding to that very first signal in the body to breathe. Now, so here we go. Let me see if I can push play on this for you. Maybe we'll try it. We're going to try this. Now, if your count is less than 25 seconds, it's a sign that your breathing patterns may need some work. Now, don't worry, I'm going to give this to you. If you weren't able to do it with me just now, you'll have another opportunity to do that. Now, the Buteyko breathing control pause is a measurement of your breath hold time only. This is not an exercise to correct your breathing. But don't worry, this is not about perfection. It's really about awareness. And trust me, once you know how to optimize your breathing, everything can change. So what can you do about this? First, it's really important to recognize the symptoms. If you are waking up tired with a dry mouth, you're having morning headaches, or your spouse or family members are noticing that you're stopping breathing during sleep, it's time to make some changes, and waiting it out is not an option. And we've talked before about how some of these are addressed more after menopause. And so we're going to be talking a little bit more in detail about those hormones in our wellness talk on September 2nd. And so you can scan that QR code, or you can text me the word hormones at 832-509-5093. And you can make sure to be a part of that, because we're going to dive in deeper on those symptoms and those ways to address perimenopause and menopause. And so I want to make sure that you have that. Okay. And the reason I mentioned that then is because we discussed in several videos in the sleep series that sleep apnea is typically considered a male problem, which is true up until menopause. And then after menopause, this challenge increases in women by over 200%. So this is why you're going to want to see how your hormones really play a role in that, which we talked a little bit more last week. But we're going to dive in a little bit deeper into those hormones then. So you saw that cycle, that vicious cycle that started with mouth breathing. What about now starting with nasal breathing? Focus on keeping your mouth closed and breathing solely through the nose throughout the day, today, and night. How you breathe during the day influences how you breathe at night as well. And when you begin to breathe through the nose, that leads to more freedom in the diaphragm, which is that muscle below that helps you get better breath. It results in a slower, deeper breath. But when I say deeper breath, I don't mean up here in the chest where we have all this movement in our shoulders and our chest. I mean deeper, lower in the body. Then you have less collapse of the airway, and then you result in deeper sleep and fewer apnea episodes. So I want you to start with that nasal breathing. Focus on keeping your mouth closed and breathing solely through the nose throughout the day and throughout the night. And then I want you to try that control pause test that we did today. I want you to take note also of your posture and try to sit or stand in a way that allows that diaphragm to move freely. Okay, so I mentioned that gift. This is the control pause test. Now, remember, it's a simple breath holding test, which is really just this reliable measurement tool. And it's really going to help you understand your breathing efficiency and lung function. So if you scan that QR code, or you can go to our website, 3lifeessentials.com/control pause, control-pause. That will give you the stopwatch and the video walking you through how to do the control pause. And then when you enter results, I will give you more information about what you can do next. Okay? Now this brings us to this Buteyko method. Dr. Buteyko, who was a world-renowned breathing expert, he successfully established this method with his asthmatic patients, and he saw how he could retrain many patients' breathing to improve their sleep quality, to reduce anxiety, and even enhance concentration. And one of the game-changing principles of the Buteyko method is nasal breathing. Nasal breathing not only helps filter and warm the air you breathe, but it also activates your body's relaxation response. It improves the oxygen delivery to your body and reduces stress. So you can see those principles, all of functional breathing, and central to that is nasal breathing. So now our Buteyko Restorative Clinic is a very special program that can help you retrain your breathing. It's designed for people just like you, who are busy moms who are juggling everything while trying to stay healthy and strong for their families. And this is not just for those with insomnia and sleep apnea, but also for those with dealing with other respiratory challenges, as well as high stress, anxiousness, dental challenges. And so what's included is our 6-week program with personalized breathing therapy sessions. We teach you how to decongest the nose, calm your breathing, and even improve your sleep quality. We do one-on-one live coaching sessions each week, and I'll guide you step by step. You get app access so that you can track that breathing progress through your control pause scores. And then you get customized breathing plans tailored to your specific needs and challenges. We do weekly frequency therapy broadcasts to really support those new breathing patterns. And then you have unlimited chat support during the entire program so that you don't feel alone in the journey. And then we give you a few gifts that also help enhance your progress through this. So this is really, the beauty of this program is that it doesn't just treat symptoms. And actually, let me go back here. If you scan that QR code there, it will help you to be able to determine if the Buteyko Clinic really is right for you or not. But the beauty is it doesn't just treat symptoms. It empowers you to take control of your respiratory health, improve your sleep, reduce anxiety. It's designed to fit into your busy life, because I know how hard it can be to take time for yourself when you're just constantly taking care of others. So again, if you scan this QR code, it will take you to our Buteyko page on our website so you can see a little bit more about the program. But I want to take a moment to just connect this back to something deeper. In Genesis 2:7, it says, "Then the Lord God formed man of dust from the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being." Breath is a gift from God, friends. It's one of the first things he gave us, and it sustains us every moment of every day. And in Psalms 46:10, we're reminded to be still and know that I am God. Sometimes improving our breathing is more than just about techniques. It's about slowing down, being still, and letting ourselves rest in his presence. When we learn to breathe properly, we create space for peace and for clarity and connection to God and the people that we love most. So imagine just waking up feeling rested and clear-headed and ready to tackle your day. Imagine having more patience, more energy, more joy to pour into your family. Our Buteyko Clinic program is not just about breathing better. It's about reclaiming the life that God intended for you to live. So if you're ready to dive in deeper, check out our Buteyko Clinic program. I'll link everything below so that you can get started. Remember, small changes can make a big difference. Here you can see just some of the success stories from those who are using our wellness tools to address those breathing-related sleep challenges. So I don't want you to let poor breathing hold you back. You deserve better sleep. You deserve better health and a better life. So I want you to start with these small steps today and see how much they can add up. Don't forget, if you found value in this, don't forget to, if you're watching this on YouTube, like, subscribe, share this with a friend who might need it. And let's start a conversation in the comments. How have you noticed your breathing impacting your health? What's worked for you? Now, thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to see you back next week. This is our last week in the series on our sleep topic. Pinch your kid's mouth shut to help them breathe better. Don't worry, it'll all make sense when you join in with me next week. If you want a text reminder of next week's talk, you can just scan that QR code there, or you can text the words Summer Talks to me at 832-509-5093. Thank you guys for spending time with me today. Remember, every breath is a gift from God. So I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.